Hallo und herzlich willkommen in der Sendereihe Diplo International, wo wir Diplomaten und Botschafter interviewen, die in Berlin akkreditiert sind. Heute machen wir eine Ausnahme. Wir haben einen Sonderbotschafter aus Baku, der Hauptstadt Aserbaidschans. Sein Titel lautet Repräsentant des Präsidenten für spezielle Aufgaben. Damit darf ich unseren Gast begrüßen. Das ist Herr Elchin Amebayev und sein Titel auf Englisch. Wir sprechen nämlich jetzt auf Englisch, deswegen wechsle ich jetzt die Sprache. Sein Titel, his title is Representative of the President of Azerbaijan on Special Assignments. Welcome, Mr. Elchin Amebayev, Ambassador for Special Affairs. You are 52 years old, but you have so many posts in your career in different embassies in Switzerland, in Paris. You have been representative in New York, in the United Nations. And I also have seen you studied in Rome, you studied in Germany, you studied in USA, you studied in France. So your education is very, very special. So you're representative of president. What is your task? What is your request to do?
Well, first of all, let me start by thanking you for this kind invitation.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be the guest of your show. Yes, indeed. I spent more than 25 years in the foreign service of Azerbaijan, and both in the central Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also in diplomatic missions abroad. And since 2017, I joined the Office of the President in the capacity of the Assistant to the First Vice President, and I was dealing with mostly international affairs, so it was a kind of continuation of my job in the field of international relations and diplomacy. And as of last year, I was assigned by the President to serve as his representative on special assignments, which in my case means to be involved in the process of normalization of relations with Armenia, and also issues related to that, like the issue of humanitarian demining, but also the cultural heritage protection and other fields, which are the consequences of the former conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Yes, and indeed, this is something that I'm involved because I'm a member also of the negotiation team from Azerbaijani side, led by our foreign minister, who is engaged in talks with the Armenian colleagues on the text of the peace agreement. So that is pretty much what I'm doing in my...
Which function is more important in Baku? Your function or the ministers of the government?
Actually, of course, the minister is the member of the government, but we also try to, with our modest contribution, to facilitate the job which is faced by the country in this particular case, and of course we're working as one team and follow the instructions which are issued by the head of state, the president.
Of course, we would like to talk about the World Energy Conference in Baku, the so-called COP29, and about other energy questions. But before, we are interested in your task that you mentioned, the normalization process. So unfortunately, there is no peace deal so far with your neighbors, with Armenian. Some people had expected that it could be done ahead of the COP conference, which will take, I think, in November. But there is no chance to be finished. So can you tell us the situation in the peace process?
Yeah, first of all, in order to bring the question into the wider context, I have to say that the peace process started right after the end of the Second Karabakh War, which ended in November of 2020. But before that, the former conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan lasted for 28 years. So this is a decades-long confrontation and rivalry between two countries. At the basis of this confrontation and conflict has always been the territorial claim by Armenia to a part of a sovereign territory of Azerbaijan, which was the Karabakh region. So that is why the peace process, which was started 4 years ago, it was supposed to address this major problem. As they say, the underlying reason of the conflict, of the former conflict. And we wanted to make sure that through elaboration of the peace agreement and striking finally the peace deal, we would make sure that in the future there will no longer be any territorial claims advanced against each other by these two countries. So that's why for us the most important indicator on the progress in the peace process is whether we have accomplished this task or not. You're right, of course there were some expectations that the forthcoming global climate summit, COP29, might be an opportunity, but it has never been a precondition, or there has never been any commitment or engagement on the part of anyone. Of course, it was a kind of a wish by many countries, but also by Armenia.
It was a wishful thinking, huh?
Well, I don't exclude entirely that, I wouldn't say that the chance is completely killed now, but I would like to share with you my personal assessment where we are today in the peace process and why we are at this spot. Because I think that it is important not to follow some misinformation campaign or some distortion of facts on the ground that we are hearing often and which is nourished by, of course, the Armenian side. I think that the most important element to mention is that today we have made a significant progress on the text of the peace agreement. As it was mentioned already in the open sources, out of 17 articles of that draft peace agreement, 13 have been agreed by Armenia and Azerbaijan ad referendum, and the 4 articles are still open. So, of course, we understand that all of those articles have to be agreed upon, because as they say in diplomatic talks, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. And you cannot engage in any cherry-picking exercise and trying to select some articles and sign them and then to throw away all those which are open, because each of these articles has a meaning, has an importance, and constitute an important element of the whole architecture of peace deal. But if we speak about the eventual peace, and I mean the peace that Azerbaijan wants to achieve, which is a sustainable peace, credible peace, and irreversible peace, in order to achieve that, we need to address the most important obstacle to that today, and that is the self-evident and obvious territorial claim which is embedded in the current Armenian constitution, which makes a specific reference to an illegal decision on so-called unification between Armenia and Karabakh, which is recognized by the whole world as part of Azerbaijan. So unless this territorial claim, which is embedded in Armenian constitution, is addressed, it doesn't make any sense for us to sign any peace agreement, because, as you know, it is the case in many countries, constitution of every nation has a supreme legal force. So there is no other legal act which supersedes or weighs over the constitution. So that's why when I say sustainable peace, we want it to survive many governments to come. So we don't want this to be a situational kind of peace, which could be invalidated easily by future governments. And in order to do that, we need to bring I mean the Armenian side, if it's sincere about its wish to sign peace agreement, it needs to bring its constitution into conformity with the letter and spirit of the draft peace agreement, but also into conformity with the official rhetoric that the government of Armenia and Prime Minister of Armenia is using today when he says that Armenia has no claims against Azerbaijan and that it recognizes territorial integrity and sovereignty of Azerbaijan, including Karabakh region. So, as we say, actions, they always speak louder than words. So that's why Armenian side needs to proceed from statements to concrete actions. And the only action which we expect them to do is to amend their constitution, the preambular part of it, which contains the reference to this illegal decision, which we consider to be a clear territorial claim towards us.
So the constitution seems to be the key problem.
Yes, because as I mentioned, you know, the legal and constitutional framework in both countries has to be in harmony with the peace agreement. Otherwise, if the peace agreement says something different from what constitution asserts, then there is a conflict between the two. And of course, the winner is always the constitution. So that is why I believe that the premise which is used by the Armenian side, that they would be ready to sign whatever is already agreed already tomorrow or in the coming days, I think this is an attempt to mislead international community because by putting forward this obviously unrealistic and unacceptable proposal, what I think they strive to do is to create an impression that they are constructively engaged in the peace process and that it's Azerbaijan that just doesn't want to sign peace. But at the same time, we believe the main reason behind this behavior of Armenia is to win time, to procrastinate, and I think that they believe that they at the same time need to preserve the image of a constructive player. But from our perspective, things are completely different, because we believe that if Armenia had wanted to achieve this peace, they would not have denied the relevance of this problem of the constitution, and they would have thought seriously about how to address it so that we can clean the road towards the final peace deal.
Did you write the draft of the articles of the peace treaty?
Well, actually, I have to mention that right after the end of the Second Karabakh War, when Azerbaijan basically liberated most of the occupied territories, it was Azerbaijan and President Aliyev who suggested to the Armenian Prime Minister to start peaceful negotiations. We also were the first ones to come up with the 5 fundamental principles on which the future peace agreement should be based. It was also Azerbaijan who finally took those 5 principles and then on the basis of those drafted the first text. And that text is the subject of negotiations by 2 teams of negotiators led by foreign ministers from each side. And these talks are continuing now for more than 2 years. And as I said, we have made a substantial progress on the text of it. In parallel to that, one has to mention that there is also border commissions of Armenia and Azerbaijan, which are led by deputy prime ministers of Armenia and Azerbaijan, and who are working on the issue of delimitation and demarcation of the border. And again, today, as you can see, the process between Armenia and Azerbaijan is carried out in a direct bilateral format without any third-party interference. And I think that is the most efficient and promising format. One of the latest examples of the efficiency of this format was the fact that on the 30th of August, these border commissions have agreed the document, the normative document, which is called the regulation, which sets out the basis for the 2 commissions to continue their work on delimitation of the border. And besides that, I think that we also have to make sure that in parallel to progress in the peace negotiations, societies of both countries, they have to be prepared to live as good neighbors and in peace. And that's why, of course, it is important that parties refrain from what is called sometimes diplomatic war, when on the one hand we see that Armenia speaks about peace and their readiness to sign an agreement, and on the other hand they basically continue their rhetoric, which is aggressive, and they continue to they refrain from basically rescinding all those legal acts which were adopted in the past and which put into question Azerbaijan's territorial integrity.
But let me ask you, who is better in information war, Armenia or Azerbaijan?
Well, it's hard for me to say, but I can tell you that for the Armenian side, they not only act as a state, they also use the services of the diaspora, which is very much present in many countries of the world. Sometimes the Armenian side is also trying to use the religious card, and unfortunately today the Armenian Church could not be considered as a peace dove and as someone who is basically interested in bringing peace closer. But I think that no matter how this information war is characterized, I think each side tries to project their own perspective so that the outsiders and the third parties could basically make their own judgment. And that is the reason why I basically thank you for this opportunity to reach out to your audience and to provide the Azerbaijani perception and the vision of where we are in the peace process. I'm still optimistic because I believe that the dividends and deliverables of peace are huge for both countries. I think that if we arrive at a final peace deal, which, as I mentioned earlier, should be durable, credible, and irreversible, I think it can open a new page in the history, contemporary history of all three countries in the South Caucasus region, and South Caucasus region can turn eventually into a place of stability, development, and prosperity.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's talk about COP29. Usually, Azerbaijan is known as a country for fossil energy, contributing for energy security in Europe. And now you try to show your capacity of renewable energies. So what is the target of COP29?
Well, of course, it's a big responsibility and honor to be selected or elected as a country hosting COP29.
Although it's famous for fossil energy.
Yes, I mean, but we are not the first country, first of all, who is hosting the country and who has this record of being, for instance, the country
Emirates
producing. Yeah, before that also we had others. But I think I would even look at this from a different angle. It is even more important sometimes to give this opportunity for countries who are producing hydrocarbon resources to host that event, because everything depends on the record of that country and what is the intention. And while we are exporters of oil and gas and hydrocarbon resources, we are very much conscious about the importance of green transition. And Azerbaijan today is investing a lot in developing renewable sources of energy, being gifted by nature, by large resources of solar and wind energy, and also hydropower. And of course, as you mentioned, we are known for this, for providers of energy security. As you know, Azerbaijan is one of those countries who has been a key and strategic partner of European Union in terms of providing energy security, especially under current circumstances. And, but we want to diversify our energy portfolio in terms of exports. So we are now at the stage when we plan, together with some neighboring countries, to export electricity by the subsea, Black Sea subsea cables. So it's a joint project which unites Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Bulgaria. So I think that we are very much interested to show to the world that you may be an exporter of oil and gas. At the same time, you can host such an important global event and try to make your own contribution to advance the progress on those crucial, outstanding issues which are faced by the whole world. So we would like, through our COP29 presidency, to achieve progress in enhancing capacity and enabling action. So we want to act as a bridge builder, using our position of a country which is located geographically between east and west, between north and south. And of course, I believe that we have a credibility of a country which can provide a certain contribution. But of course, it will very much depend on the willingness and the openness of major stakeholders to come up with so much expected results in areas as climate finance and also the revision of nationally determined contributions in order to get to keep within reach the 1.5 degree target. So I mean, this is a huge task. We were not given the privilege of long preparation time. The decision to give us the right to host this conference was taken only in December last year. So, and during the last 10 months, Azerbaijan has done its best in order to do its homework and to be prepared to be up to the task of a host country. It's true that we also want to ensure certain continuity and coherence in approaches between previous and future presidents of COP, so that's why there is also certain cooperation between United Arab Emirates, Azerbaijan, and Brazil, which will be the next country hosting COP30.
How much did Azerbaijan benefit from the cut of energy supply from Russia to Europe?
Well, it's not about benefit. I think that the question, we look at it from a different perspective. Yeah. We think that when the situation has become as it is today, of course, our European partners, they have started to look for alternative sources to basically replace the traditional sources of getting natural gas, for example. And Azerbaijan was one of those countries that they wanted to refer to, because we already had a very strong credibility and record of being a reliable partner, because we have been providing many countries with oil for years. Today, Azerbaijan is exporting natural gas to almost 10 European countries, and out of them, I think 8 are members of the European Union, and the number will continue to increase. We signed an agreement on strategic partnership in the energy field with the European Commission, and I think 2 years ago. And we committed ourselves to double the volumes of natural gas which will be exported to European Union market by 2027. And so we are very much in line with our commitment. Okay. So it's about trust, it's about mutually beneficial cooperation, it's about expanding our relations with the European Union, because our relationship with the EU is much wider and richer than just energy. But even in the energy field, as I mentioned, there is a diversification of the portfolio, because we also want to be exporters of green energy.
Let me ask a very last question, which is more international. As Azerbaijan has 900 kilometers border to Iran, is Azerbaijan nervous about the conflict?
Well, we have a bit more than 700 kilometers of our common border with Iran. Iran is our neighbor. It is a country with which we have a lot of common history. And of course, as a country which has a multi-vectoral foreign policy, we try to develop our relations with all of our neighbors. Hopefully, one day we will normalize relations also with Armenia. And I think that, of course, all these latest developments, they are a source of concern, as for many other countries, also for Azerbaijan, because we are in the immediate vicinity. And we do sincerely hope that all the necessary efforts will be taken in order to avoid any further escalation, which can actually lead to some potentially difficult consequences to all the countries in the region. So, but of course, going back to where we started from, I think that both Armenia and Azerbaijan, they need to seize this historic chance and this window of opportunity to finally turn the page of hostility and to start new peaceful coexistence. Of course, for that, both countries need to remain motivated to go till the end of the road. And unfortunately, I have to say that recently we have seen that there is a decrease of motivation from the Armenian side, because the positions that they have been expressing recently, they have stiffened if you compare them with some months ago. And maybe one of the reasons for that is the fact that they are feeling more in a comfort zone after they have been given a lot of economic, political, military support from some members of European Union, but also political, diplomatic, economic, and financial support coming from the United States. I think that they should stay the course, and they should not again engage in some phantasms, because the shortest way to increase their resilience as a state is to strike peace with neighbors.
But they still complain about the forced evictions. What is the position of Azerbaijan?
Well, actually, I think Armenia should be the last country who should complain about forced evictions, as you mentioned, because if we go back to the beginning of this conflict, in the late 80s, more than 300,000 ethnic Azerbaijanis were ethnically cleansed from today's territory of Armenia. And basically in the early 90s, Armenia occupied, as you know, 20% of our territories, and as a result of this occupation, they have evicted from their homes more than 1 million of Azerbaijanis from Karabakh and region and from the region of Eastern Zangezur. And of course, this was accompanied by scorched earth policy. This was accompanied by acts of genocide and mass killings of innocent people. But when it comes to the mass departure of ethnic Armenians from Karabakh region of Azerbaijan, I think you referred to that. That was the decision and that was the action that was orchestrated by the separatist leaders of this puppet regime that was created by Armenia in the Azerbaijani territories, because Azerbaijani government has made clear on many occasions its desire for those people to stay and to integrate into the Azerbaijani society. We talked about civilians. We were not talking about those who were part of those terrorist groups. But unfortunately, most of them were just rushed out of the country. But unfortunately, while Azerbaijan has made those appeals for those people to stay and to integrate in the fabric of this Azerbaijani society, we have never heard the reciprocal calls from the Armenian government to 300,000 Azerbaijanis who in the late 80s were subjected to ethnic cleansing.
Excellent. So we had come to the end. Thank you very much for sharing the position. And I wish you a good stay in Berlin. And maybe we can hear you again one day when you come from Baku to Berlin. Thank you very much. Das war die Exzellenz, der Sonderbotschafter und Repräsentant des Präsidenten von Aserbaidschan für Sonderaufgaben, Herr Elcin, Amirbayev. Und ich hoffe, Sie haben das mit Interesse gesehen und ich freue mich, Sie am kommenden Donnerstag um 19:30 Uhr wiederzusehen in der Sendung Diplo International. Auf Wiedersehen.